Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. So, the first video of our series that will be discussing leadership and how to
Leadership.
lead in today's market with Jerry, my good friend Jerry Luna, and marketing expert.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. I'm honored to be here. It's such a great honor to be on the first episode and discussing leadership because you as an agency owner, you deal not only leadership in your business but in your household. So you're a leader in many ways, in all
Yeah,
facets of life. So
yeah.
I really respect that. It's really beautiful to see, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Jerry. Well, I know you're quite a bit, so we're planning to keep these 30 minutes, 45 minutes at most when it comes to some of these, depending on the week and the topic that we're discussing today. I don't think it's going to be too hard. Uh, but when it comes to leadership, there is a few things I want to go over. But you did mention something earlier that you just said that really hits home as being a leader in many different ways. I I don't know if this will resonate with you, but I listened to, you can say read, it was an audiobook of Zig Ziglar.
What a
And
great name. 10
yes,
out of 10 name.
yes. And he has a lot of great things, right? But one of the books, I don't remember exactly which one, but he was saying, and he does it in a lot of his message and a lot of his books repeat some of the same themes. He said that the same type of character or the same thing it takes a great president, or to make a great president, it's the same thing it takes to make a great dad. Um, and same thing as take and make a great business partner. Now, he brought the illustration up because I believe he said that there was an election going on and they did the debate. And one of the questions was, what character or how, what is family values? That's what it was. What is family values? And he said neither one of the candidates could answer the question. And he said the reason why they couldn't answer the question is it's not really a real question. It's like family values. There's no such thing as family values. There's just values, right? The same values that it takes for a person to be a great president, it's the same values going to take to be a great father, great mother, great person. You just got to be a great person, right? And when it comes to leadership, I think it's much of the same. The same
Mhm.
value it takes to be characteristic it takes to be a leader in the workplace is the same thing it's going to take to be a leader at home, be a leader in your family, be a leader, in any facet of life. Leaders
Mhm.
don't. It's not a title. It's not a position. It's a calling. It's a character. Right? You are a leader. You become. Something that you become. It's not something that you do. If
Mhm.
that makes sense, right?
Yeah. I like that idea, especially well, that's interesting that nobody had an answer. I'm sure they had a politically correct answer, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure they answered it, but maybe not super well. But
Yeah.
what I think when it comes to leadership is having a mission. This is where we're going. So for example, if you're leading a company, and let's say you're leading Google, right? And your mission statement is, to categorize the world's knowledge, let's say.
Hmm.
That's the mission. And so by reminding your employees of that vision, of that mission, you're leading them towards that goal, right? Same with your family. This is our mission, family. We're going to, our mission is to, well, I don't know what that mission would be for you, but having a mission and a vision is important as a leader, so that way people know where they're going, right? Like,
Yeah.
and your values are what you do on the way to that mission, right? If you tell your wife, okay, we're gonna live here, we're gonna have this many kids, we're going to be Catholics, like that's the mission, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
raise a big family, we're gonna live here, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, right? Like same in business, same with your family, right? Like
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that's important.
Yeah, no, knowing where to go or, having a destination is
Yeah.
definitely, The
like it, like you don't go to the airport not knowing where you're going, right? Like you wouldn't be at the airport, right? It's the same with a business. It's the same with your family. You have
yeah,
to show them this is where we're going to go, family. We're
yeah,
going to go.
absolutely.
This is the destination. And honestly, that's what women want too. Women
Yes.
don't want a guy who doesn't lead, that doesn't know what they're going to do, or what values they're going to have, right? It helps them relax into their feminine when the man kind of takes charge and leads the relationship. And so that way, like the sexes complement each other in their respective strengths. The leaders are like the ferry boat captains, right? And the passengers are the people who you're going to take with you, like your wife, for example. Who's going to
Absolutely.
be that passenger, right? If she doesn't like the destination, she can get off, right? Or the ferry boat captain can remove her.
Yeah, absolutely. And leadership, is the thing about leadership is something that you basically take on. It's a mantle that you take up. You don't become a leader because they gave you a title to a position, right? Oh, you're the manager, right? That's a manager. Manager is way different than being in the leadership, right? So when you're a leader, now you have a responsibility. It's you put that responsibility on yourself, and in order to lead effectively, leaders must have vision. Right? That's basically what you're talking about there. You must have some kind of vision in mind. Now, you might not know how to get there, right? That comes along on the journey with maybe even acquiring different strengths and different team members. You might not know how to get there, but you know where there is, hopefully. Hopefully,
Hmm.
you know where there
Yeah.
is, right? Because that is very important on the leadership journey. And where there is might change as you grow, right? You might want to be here, we just want to survive and pay all our bills and then be a
Yeah.
Christian going family. And now we want to be a millionaire and change the community that we're in. Now we're getting closer to that. We changed that from a millionaire to a billionaire and own Wall Street, whatever
Oh
the
yeah.
case may be. So,
Yeah.
uh,
A leader paints the picture of what the future is going to look like for your family
absolutely.
and for your company. you
Yes.
know like uh, why should an employee stay with you? Well, this is why, and you paint that picture. This is what your career is going to be like if you stick with Dingle Agency. This is what, first it's important to figure out, like, well, what are your goals? Can they fit into this company? You know what I mean? Can you achieve your dreams using my business as the vehicle, right? That's how you retain really good people, right? You paint a picture of what the future is going to look like. It's the same with your relationship. If I tell a pretty young thing, like, jump on my boat, right? This is where we're going. This is how amazing it's going to be, right? Like that's me painting the picture of what a relationship with me is going to be like in the future,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and being an entrepreneur, Jerry. So we're discussing today how to lead biblically, and being an entrepreneur, like yourself, myself. There, I mean, how has faith influenced the way you started and now running your digital marketing company?
Okay, well, great question. So, I mean, entrepreneurship, you need faith just to even start. You need faith that it will work out because the
Absolutely.
waters are uncertain. Nothing is certain. So you definitely need faith to take that leap and say, hey, I want a better life for my family. This is the vision I have for helping my customers. Like it's all based on faith, and if without faith, it's treacherous waters. It's almost impossible to navigate without faith that the rough periods will get better and everything will work out. So
Yeah.
yeah, faith is absolutely important. How does faith? How do you? I gotta ask you the same thing. How do you reconcile faith and entrepreneurship?
I would say biggest thing is for me is constantly developing my understanding of what faith is. I think that has played a very huge part in me doing well as an entrepreneur. I mean, there's plenty of times like we talked about, it's such a rocky road that you need so much faith. There's plenty of times I wanted to give up, right? And you have that devil's mind in your head saying no, saying basically you don't have to do this. You can do something. You can go work a 9 to 5. Why you did? There's plenty of millionaires that did, the regular road, right? So I think understanding and getting a new understanding of faith, with for me, recent enlightenment for me is just faith is hope. Hope in the future, and that hope in the future really changes a lot of things for me, letting me know that, hey, I may not see it now, but if I just hold on to, hey, it's going to be better in the future, I can, basically change the world. Without that belief, I mean, you wouldn't even get up in the morning. You wouldn't even get
Yeah,
out of bed.
faith is so important because if like if you don't like you have to trust that God will steer the ship, and you have to be able to row and believe that like as you row, God will steer you in the right direction, and the right direction will reveal itself. So it's so important to have faith in yourself, in God. Otherwise, you know, you're setting yourself up for being disheartened, for being disillusioned, for losing your vigor. So yeah, absolutely, faith is so important. And actually, in my entrepreneurship journey, I've become more and more religious. I've decided to become more extreme in my religious beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to leadership, I mean, for me, I don't know about for yourself, but faith, I lead with it. I don't force my religion on anyone, because if you're not willing to hear it, then the Bible says dust your feet off and leave that place. So,
Dust
like,
your feet off.
and leave. So, like, for me, I still do lead with it and share the principles. Because one thing, regardless of where I got the principles from, I have absolute belief in the Bible, and these principles I don't think can be refuted against. When someone said, "Love your neighbor as yourself," who can complain against that? No, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
you know,
screw my neighbor.
uh,
That guy's
so
an asshole.
yeah, absolutely. So I'll say things like that. Not with the hopes of converting you to my religion, but with the hopes of changing your perspective on life and getting you to have more positive results out of the actions that you take, so you can be more positive and get the results that you want for you
Hmm.
and your family, because ultimately that's what us leaders want, is a better life for you and your family.
Yeah. And religion provides a moral framework for resisting the evils of the world, for like, speaking about leadership, you have to lead your family not just financially, you have to make sure that, they're well taken care of, but you have to lead them spiritually as well. And if you don't lead your family spiritually, then somebody else will. And they might fall for something that it can be unseemly or unholy or blasphemous, or even degenerate. So it's important uh, to lead them strongly, so that they don't succumb to these resistances, to these little whispers from Satan talking about this or that, or you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
like I'm sure we could give tons of examples of degeneracy and evil in the world, and you don't want your
Absolutely.
kids being affected by that. So it's so important to lead your wife, to lead your kids spiritually, so that they don't turn to the things that you like. You don't want them going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. And which actually leads me to the next question that I want to go over, is that biblical leadership principles, like what are some of the specific biblical principles you incorporate in your leadership style, and how they kind of shape the way you interact with your team, clients, or family?
Okay. Can you repeat the question?
What are some of the specific biblical principles you incorporate in your leadership style, and how do they
Specific
shape the
biblical
way you
principles.
interact? Yes.
Specific biblical principles. I'm curious actually about your specific biblical principles.
Okay,
Since you know you have a big family, you know you're running a successful agency. I'd love to hear more about how you know how you go about it.
yeah, no, absolutely. So I do a lot of reading. So I think that's firstly, that's one of the principles you also biblically is reading to increase knowledge, right? Uh, and the Bible states this specifically where Paul says we gotta be in the Word, meditate daily, right, on the Word, right? So now that is talking about reading the Bible specifically, but we can take that in all areas of life and just say reading in general. Because I know sometimes, like I discussed with you, we were talking yesterday before we decided to come on today about the relatableness of the Bible, if that's the word.
Relatability, yeah, that
Okay.
sounds good. Sounds like a good word.
Right.
Well, the relatableness of that word is very good, I would say. I relate
Right.
to that word.
Right. So, uh, how relatable the Bible is in especially in certain translation, sometimes we might not relate as much because it's hard to understand, right? So now we have these other books that have been written that uses the same principles but have been written, hundreds of years later that is
Yeah,
more
through a
relatable to
filter, it's like
yes.
rewritten.
Yes, we can relate a little bit more because we understand the words are just structured, the sentence is structured just how we structure sentences today, or at least closer to how we structure sentences, right? So reading, like I said, is one of those things, the principles that is huge to me. The other, I would say, is there's a I I think the first time I heard this was Myron Golden saying it, but then I read it and the Bible says because he listed exactly where it was, but a soft approach turns away wrath. Right. And this is something that I've definitely
Soft approach turns away wrath. That's
yes,
interesting.
a soft approach turns away wrath. So this is something made intentional, which is basically saying that how we approach an incident, right, will determine the result we get. So it's a reminder to be positive, but also when someone is angry, belligerent,
Hmm.
you do not feed into that by being angry and belligerent, right? So this is something I tell my kids all the time when I got three boys, so they
Hey,
they
congratulations.
definitely gets rowdy at times, right, and fuss at each other, fight and things like that. So I said, hey, I promise you, I know your brother was wrong in this situation, but if they would not have gone this far, if when they approached you funny, you just replied soft, even though you
Hmm.
feel slightly offended, because I think this time period in the world we're in, we take a lot of offense, and sometimes the world tells us it's okay to be offended, right? And
Hmm.
it's a choice. It's not neither okay, not or okay. It's a choice to be offended. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter if it's okay
yeah.
or not, right? So someone say something, you choose whether you're going to let that bother you or not. And if you let it bother you, then your approach might be also. I hear something, and my first thought is to give it a positive spin. Maybe
Hmm.
that's how they talk. Maybe they're trying to say this. Maybe they're trying.
Yeah,
I'm
give them the
I'm
benefit
not
of the doubt.
I'm not perfect by any means. There's still some people out there that listen.
Yeah, that's
I've
very
had Holy Spirit give me strength.
that's
I'm
very
very,
stoic too. You know,
yes.
Stoicism says that like you can't control other people or the feelings of other people, but you can control yourself, your emotions, and how you respond to the situation and how you let it affect you. So, you know, Stoicism is something that I really got into when I was much younger,
Mhm.
as a way to cope with, you know, the difficulty of dealing with others, you know, as a kid.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was fantastic. Which kind of reminds me that you can't make somebody feel anything. One time I had a client that was, you know, I was telling him, you know, he made a small mistake, I jumped on the call. Hey, let's celebrate with some wins. We'll start with wins. Okay, now some announcements. Please don't do XYZ because XYZ. So he did something that I was like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Um, we were working on a project together, and it was just a small thing, and then he got really upset, and then he started blaming me for making him feel upset. And I told him, no, I can't make you feel anything. If you feel something, that's coming from you, that's not
Wow.
coming from me. Like, you make yourself feel this way. I I'm not making you feel this way. And he got even angrier,
Yes.
but you can't make somebody feel a certain way. Like, if you feel love, that's the love that you feel coming out of you, right? If you feel hate, like, the other person isn't like projecting hate into you, right?
Yeah,
That's your hate
I
leaving your
hate you
body. You know
because
what I mean?
you did X, Y, Z. I hate you because you did. No, you hate me because you choose to hate me,
Yeah,
right?
you choose that. That's an emotion that you're feeling.
Right.
I'm not feeling that, like, I'm not making you feel that. It's you chose to respond with that emotion, that's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
So, in a way, maybe it's minimizing that emotion in their eyes, and that's why they got angrier. But I think it's important to make that distinction that I can't make you feel hate. You yourself feel hate. You recognize something uh that made you feel that way.
Um,
By the way, I know you were
Go ahead.
talking about specific biblical principles, and
Hmm.
during
Yes.
my little soliloquy, I was reminded of an example. I know I switched it to you because I can't think of one,
No, I appreciate
but
it.
I did think of one, and it was don't cast your pearls before swine.
Oh, that's a good one.
Basically, it's about people who don't know or don't care about something that you care deeply about.
Hmm.
If you don't care very much about World War II history, I'm not going to be uh telling you about how amazing this was or what interesting parts of this were. I'm if you're not religious, I'm not going to talk about how great the Catholic Church is, or the differences between Eastern Orthodoxy and Protestantism, or this or that. Like,
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
times people don't know or don't care about the things that you care about. If I
Hmm.
care about marketing, I'm not going to word vomit over somebody talking about marketing. I like,
Yes.
if I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I'm not I'm not throwing all these random facts about anime or Gundams or religion or business, even though I love talking about those things, because, like, as an example, I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm sure you're familiar with the card game.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on now.
So, great game, so fun, right? But I was hanging out with my Yu-Gi-Oh friends. We were about to start the tournament, and
I know
I
the
had
first
a
time we met was, yeah, it was definitely Yu-Gi-Oh.
yeah, I was playing
Yeah,
Yugi, right? Yugi
yeah,
is great.
yeah.
So I was excited. I wanted to talk about work, because I had set up SMS for a client, and
Mhm.
I wanted to talk about it, and so I started to, at first I asked, I try to get other people, like, if I want to talk about something, I'll ask you a question directly related to it. Oh, how's your work day, Richard? Oh, it was great. I did this, this, and this, and then, oh, that's great. Here's what I did today. In order to segue into what I wanted to talk about. But, I mentioned that I had set up SMS for a client, and I had done this for another client. It took 7 days. This time it took 2 months, and, and this and that. And
Mhm.
people just don't care. It was just silent about this, this topic. This topic failed so hard.
Crickets.
Exactly. So I just pivoted, into asking them questions and stuff. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, it's funny how that happens. That's a good, great. It is a great principle. I love that principle. We can go on and on about those biblical principles there, but that's one of my favorites as well. It's not casting your pearls to swine. Is it not just talk? It also goes goes especially for sales agents or anyone in sales, because sometimes we make the point of trying to convince instead of persuade. We try to convince our client or our prospect that this product is the solution to their problem.
Exactly. They
So
don't
we say,
know it's
oh,
pearls yet, right? They haven't been persuaded that it's actually pearls, right? Before you
right.
cast them for
And
pearls.
we're trying to convince them. And the thing is, this client don't think they have a problem, right? So
Yeah.
the
Oh, there's no
prospect
sale if
don't,
they don't think they have a problem.
they don't think they have a problem.
If it's not a problem,
Everything
why
is
are you even
correct,
on the call? You know?
right?
That's why I always start, well, what motivated you to, take time out of your day to talk to me?
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. So, the
Like
things
you want
like,
them to admit they have a problem. Oh, Jerry, I have this big problem. I don't have enough sales. I don't have enough leads. Oh, perfect. Okay, well, what have you tried? And then, sales call.
yeah, absolutely. And this is my last principle. I just thought about it when you was going, and we'll move on. But the principle that I've been living by this year, because I recently came across it when I was reading Bible there, was Proverbs. Ooh, that's a good one. I would have to pull my phone out and look at it. I have it written down, but and that's one thing I do is
You do. Right.
it's funny. I said it and I thought at the same time you did. One thing that I do, I make sure to do is write down the principles or his particular scriptures in my phone and say them daily or every other day. Maybe I break the routine. Every day, not every day, but I break the routine every so often where I don't say it daily, but I make it a point to try and say it at least once a day where I just read all the scriptures that I've written down in order so I can remember to live by them. And when the situation comes up, I'm mentally repeating it or outwardly
Yeah. So you could use it in
repeating
conversation.
repeating the scripture. One of
Yeah.
those, the most recent one, I my newfound favorite is in Proverbs. It says, "Be sensible and keep your mouth shut, because
Be
too much
sensible.
talk leads to sin. Be sensible, keep your mouth shut. Too much talk leads to sin." And that's it reminds me that your mouth can get you in trouble. So
Yes.
anytime a conversation is going sideways, whether it be personal, work, whatever the case may be, I just repeat that to myself, and sometimes, like we talked about, that feeling, right?
Yes.
Those emotions
Oh,
come up and you want to live inside of that emotion and you want to start blurting things out, and I'm like,
exactly.
be
I
sensible,
Oh my
keep
gosh,
your
that
mouth
happened to
shut.
me recently too. So I was playing Yugi as usual. So I was playing against a friend, and then another friend was spectating. Right. Well, he was we didn't have that close of a relationship, enough to joke around. But he said he's pretty fat, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm so hungry. I can't wait to go eat. When are you gonna finish?" And in my mind, I was like, you don't." I was gonna make a fat joke. I was like, "Oh, you don't look like you're starving." He said something like, "Oh, I'm starving." I was like, and in my mind, I was like, "Oh, I should say that joke." But then I was like, "Oh, I should keep my mouth shut because that, maybe I'm not
That
so close to him. Should I, maybe that'll be overstepping." But it would be so funny. And I was racking my brain like, should I say it? Should I not say it? And
oh
then I chose
man.
not to say it.
And you chose not to,
Yes,
which
I
was
chose not to say it. And
a
then
wise choice.
here's what happened. Like there was silence, and I was like, oh, should I do it? I was like, oh, it would be so cool. It would be so funny. But then I didn't say it. And then afterwards, he started asking me questions, just regular conversation. Like maybe in his mind, he also thought that, oh, I just gave him an opening for a fat joke. And because I didn't take it, he felt more affinity towards me and he came closer to me, like
That's awesome,
in the
man.
conversation and in friendship and in conversation because I didn't, blurt out the funny joke that I had in my mind,
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one of the situations you got to be
keep
sensible
my
and
mouth
keep
shut.
your mouth shut. Like, you know,
Although it would have been
sometimes,
so good.
yes, yes, I know, but you never know what will happen. So it's just better to play it safe in certain areas. Now, the next question we have here is dealing with challenges and faith. So running a business, of course, comes with its shared challenges, as we discussed. And you can share, a time when your faith helps you navigate, or can you share a time when your felt faith helps you navigate through a decision or situation in your business, or like a specific example or specific memory you have where your faith really helped you out in business?
Where my faith? Oh, actually, as I got more religious, I started getting more business. So my faith literally directly led me to a more successful business. Because if I throw things in the sales call or the conversation about, oh, God bless, oh, have a good day, oh, have a blessed day, little things like that, then all of a sudden that creates a lot of affinity, with the client. They're like, oh, Jerry just said God bless. Well, I'm religious too. I grew up in the deep South. Wow,
Right.
he's one of my people.
Yes. Yes.
So instant connection,
That's it.
instant
Validation.
validation.
Mhm.
So just the fact that I'm more religious has been a blessing to my life. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
people feel more connection, like ladies too.
Yes.
Honestly, women love a God-fearing man.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Because
absolutely.
they were raised a certain way, and they see me, prospect, a romantic prospect that is also religious. Then that creates a lot of affinity, right? Like,
Yes.
oh, Jerry's religious. Oh, maybe there's something here.
Yes.
If I was like, oh, I don't believe in God, that's BS, then that'll bring up a wall, and they'll be like,
Yeah.
oh, Jerry's not my people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's best to find your people and stick with them. I know a lot of this is a side note. I know a lot of Christians that struggle, or any faith that struggle with maintaining their faith and their beliefs, and doing the things of that. Sometimes we want to stray and fit in. We don't want to be a sore thumb sticking out, right? We feel uncomfortable saying God bless to a client because, oh, I don't want them to think I'm super religious or something.
Well, why not? Why is that a bad thing?
Right?
Because a client is only going to think, okay, so, oh, Jerry is religious. Okay, that's a good thing. Oh, Jerry is religious, and if they're not religious, they're not going to care, right? Because they're
Yeah.
not going to want to say, oh, you believe in God. You know, most
Yeah.
most people believe in God anyway, right? So
Right.
I'm not afraid of offending people. Like, there was a Saint John Chrysostom, old
Hmm.
school saint. He said, we must not mind insulting men if by respecting them we offend God. So, you know, I don't I don't care if people aren't religious. If they are religious, good. If they aren't religious, good. I don't care,
Yeah.
because I'll continue, you know, being true to myself and my own beliefs.
Absolutely.
And it's not going to affect me either way if somebody is or is not religious.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
We shouldn't hang our hat on whether someone will be offended by the things we say. Now, we should not intentionally be hurtful, or say something intending to hurt someone. Because that's not the Christian way. That's not a Christian value to have. But to avoid offending, when the truth, we speak the truth and speak the truth only. And this is not a necessarily faith. I have two situations, not necessarily faith in the business, but based on what you said, I want to piggyback and just give an example. I'm in Toastmasters, so
Oh, Toastmasters, that's great.
yes, so I
No
joined
wonder your
Toastmasters.
speaking ability has leveled up, by the way.
Thank you, thank
Over
you.
these last few
And,
weeks,
and
I'm like, oh, he's very well spoken.
I am trying to stop asking people.
You stop axing people.
Stop
Yes.
asking people and start asking them. But I'm in Toastmasters, and the week that I joined Toastmasters, there was another person there. And for those of us that do not know what Toastmasters is an organization that is meant to, it's a group of people, different professionals that come together with the sole intention of helping each other level up our speaking, right? consider it a speaking fraternity.
Oh, yes, very well said.
Right. So with that being said, we newcomers, these some of these members have been there a long time. Us newcomers were there. Now it was improv speech. There was no actual written speeches for that day. So in the improv speech, everyone has to speak, or you will get called on, or you can volunteer.
Can you choose the topic? Like, hey,
uh,
I want to talk about, Eastern Orthodoxy versus Catholicism. Or
right.
I want to
You
talk
you
about
can choose a topic. Yes, you can
I want to
absolutely
talk about,
choose a topic.
Germany and Austria uniting.
Yeah, you can choose a topic. They
Whatever.
also give you topics, so you pick topics, and if you choose not to say the topic that it's a question that you got, you must answer. If you choose not to say it, you can select another, or you can select somebody else's question that they speak on, because everyone gets maximum of 2 minutes, and they're gonna, if they see this video, they're probably gonna grill me because I've said way too many times. I've been
Oh,
hearing
yeah.
myself saying that, I'm like, there he goes again. But so
I, I think the key is to slow down your
slow
speech so
down.
that you don't say so that you process words faster.
Absolutely.
I was about to say
Yeah, no, you're right. But yeah, in Toastmasters, when I spoke, Jesus, when I spoke, I got feedback at the end. They gave feedback to everyone. So the newcomers, myself and the other person that was a newcomer, spoke about the topic for 2 minutes, and we all did fairly well. But that other person had a great bit of likes, great bit of likes in there, and this is something that my brain is tuned to because I had friends and cousins that just used the word like after every other
like.
word, right?
Mm.
So especially growing up in Florida, it was something in high school when I was growing up. It
Like, what do you mean?
like
I was kidding.
like what do you mean? Like it just that's how the phrase was used. So when we got the feedback at the end, I felt the person that was giving the feedback, because every person has a different job. You count certain things. You may keep one person keeps track of time, the other person counts all the arms and bad use of wording, right? Filler words. The person that gave the filler word feedback was not as honest to the person, maybe trying to spare feelings, not trying to offend, is where I'm
Hmm.
getting at. And I was,
So they were really bad, but they said they weren't very critical.
they weren't very critical. They called out everything pretty much, except for
Yeah,
the
hey,
likes,
hey, it
except for
sucked.
the
Your speech
amount
sucked.
of likes they used, which was the most distracting thing. And the person was stealing from my experience. That's what Zig Ziglar calls it, right? Stealing from your presentation. Anytime you use filler words that doesn't bring anything to the the presentation or the conversation, you
Hmm.
are stealing time and things from your prospect. So I felt like, okay, we must address this, and they didn't address it. Now this person is still here, so in the future, I hope we will address it more and more. But I said that to say I feel like brutal honesty in times without being mean is very important, right?
Mm.
Very important to let people know, hey, this is where you are. This is not to bash you or anything like that.
Yeah.
Let's tone down so you can make an intentional decision to tone down your likes, tone down your arms. I know because they call out my arms. So,
Hmm. That's cool. I'm going to start going to Toastmasters as well because my public speaking could use some work, if I'm being totally honest. See, there we go. There we go. I just said
yeah, no,
one.
I absolutely recommend it. It has been a very good experience. You intentionally speak, and it gives you that time where you do slow down and start to speak in what Omar from the video department calls sound bites. If you notice, a lot of speakers speak slowly to the point. I know when we consume content, a lot of us put it on double time, time and a half.
Yeah, times two speed. I just want the information. Give me the info.
Because they're speaking so slow, but it is a speaking
So
strategy.
when I see an hour video, I'm like, oh, 30 minutes on times two speed. Easy. And then boom. And so you might. you might intake the information, but when it comes to repeating the information or explaining the information to somebody else, you might understand the information, but the problem is communicating that information to somebody else, right?
Yes.
Transmutating,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
information, explaining it well enough. That's the difficult part. So I started slowing down my video viewing just so I could marinate in the information better.
Wow, same, same. And I remember we talked about times two, like this was probably maybe a year ago. We talked about how we watch everything on times two to speed up time. But I have quality beats quantity, right? So
It does,
I
yeah.
have slowed down. I don't watch anything on times two speed anymore. I just watch less video and get more information out of
Yeah.
the videos I watch. Now I consume very little content, but the little I consume is very impactful for me. I'm not watching 100 YouTube videos anymore because I don't need all of that information. I need to grab one or two principles that is going to
Yeah.
completely transform my life, my work, and such.
Yeah, I even stopped browsing as I'm listening. So what I would do is I'd put up a video and like let's say on X the platform. So I'd pull up an hour long video and then I'd minimize it and I'd keep scrolling on X and I'd be trying to not only listen and absorb the information, but I'd be liking posts, thinking about other posts, scrolling. And
Yeah.
so that's divided attention. So my intention is not to absorb the information because I'm doing all these things. So I decided to just focus on the one video as opposed to like continuing to scroll for something more interesting. And my watch later on YouTube can attest to that. I'll be watching a video and then I'll see another one and that I'll add to my watch later. Oh, I gotta see that
Yeah.
later. And then I'll keep scrolling and oh, I gotta see that later.
Right.
So I'm not even focusing on the content. I'm focusing on what to watch next, which is a big problem.
Yeah.
It's like trying to live in the future and not enjoying the present. It's the same concept. It's better to enjoy the current video than to keep scrolling and seeing what's next. It's like if you're married and you're still on Tinder looking at, what could be and what you could enjoy in the future. You know what
Don't
I
do
mean?
that, folks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now the next question I want to go over here with us, one of our last questions, faith and marketing. Let's talk about, especially this is a good one for you, Jerry, being a marketing professional yourself. As someone in digital marketing space, how do you balance staying competitive in the industry while staying true to your Christian values?
Well, how do I balance faith and staying true to my values? They're one and the same if I'm being
Well,
honest.
staying
Any good
competitive,
business is going
so
to follow
staying competitive and
staying competitive.
staying true to your Christian values. Because I know, like we talked about it being relevant. Sometimes I see some Christians change values to be relevant. How do you still remain competitive with your competitors, relevant, but still keep your Christian values?
Well, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you
Okay.
can be competitive and stay true to your values because, marketing, like if you run any business, running any business, it's really if you're focused on helping people, on being useful and getting clients results, then that's your competitive advantage there. You know, deep love and care for your customers. That's what makes a great business. That's what makes a beautiful business, a wonderful business. And I think, those are things that I think are aligned with Christian values. So I actually don't think there's a difference between them. In order to staying true to your values means that you're going to run a wonderful business. And by running a wonderful business, you'll be competitive because other people won't care as deeply as clients as you do, and that's the advantage. By 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 staying true to your Christian values, you are competitive,
Hmm. Hmm.
over others that don't hold these beliefs to be true. Does that
I
make sense?
absolutely agree. No,
Uh,
I
what
agree
what do you
100%.
what do you think?
For me, I don't think like you said, mutually exclusive at all. But I see where some people do struggle with the decision of what they consider competitive. I saw this thing on LinkedIn recently. I want to say it was day before yesterday, and it was an article about Pepsi and Coke and how Pepsi made Coke start selling more. How does Pepsi vending machines increase Coke products? And the article basically, I didn't read the whole thing. I'm guilty. I didn't read the whole thing, right?
Was it behind a paywall? Is that why?
But there was a sentence that stood out with me, which was the article said that before there was only one choice, Coke. Now I'm not sure which one came out first, so that don't ask me here. But there was
Don't axe you? Oh my gosh.
don't
I don't want to axe you.
don't question me on this. We until we get the asking right. um, Before there was only one choice, whether it be Coke or Pepsi. Let's say in a given gas station, and customers would pass by. The question was, do I get a Coke or do I not get a drink? Do I get a drink or do I not get a drink? Now we added a Pepsi machine. Now there's not the question changes. Now there's two choices. So the question changes. Now the question is, do I get a Coke or do I get a Pepsi? Right?
The answer's
So that
obvious.
which so it's obvious, right? To whoever that person standing there, the answer is definitely obvious, right? Pepsi or
Obviously.
Coke. So I believe in our leading biblically when it comes to faith-based marketing, marketing with faith, and putting that faithful foot first when it comes to attracting whether it be clients or building a team.
Mhm.
Us being and leading with that and being, putting that forward makes us, like you said, more competitive because the choice now isn't, do I just go with a person because they believe in God? It's, do I go with a person because, oh, well, Jerry believes in God and this and has these Christian values, and this company over here has none of those values because they're cussing on all of their podcasts. Cool. But my
Yeah,
kids can actually watch this podcast because there's no curse words and the things like that. I can play this podcast in school. Like you said, we are way more competitive at this point because there's so much more to offer when you lead with these principles. These principles aren't going to let you down. And
exactly. And having faith is so important in marketing because marketing is a fancy word for test. You don't know what's going to work, not
Mhm.
like, or it's not a will it work, will it not work? It's how well will it work.
Right.
And when you're selling a solution to a client, you yourself have to have enough faith in yourself, in your ability, in your case studies, in your work that it will work. And that
Mhm.
faith will transfer to the client as well. That conviction will transfer to them too. So having faith in marketing is super important. And then
Yeah.
because you don't know what's going to work. It's important that you have faith in yourself, in God, and in the process because nothing is certain. No one knows whether anything will work. Like no one bats 10 out of 10 every single time, but having
No.
faith in yourself, in God, in the process, in your work, in your case studies, in your clients, in your team, that's that's a recipe for success.
Well, yeah, and
That's
that
going to
faith,
lead to wins for the client and for you.
yeah, and that faith translates into passion. When we have faith in what we do, we become more passionate about it, and
Yeah,
that
and it
passion,
increases certainty. If you've
yeah,
done if you've done something 1,000 times, how certain are you going to be of that outcome?
absolutely. It should be a
And that
surprise
faith.
that you fail. Like, oh, that
Yeah.
failed. Like, what happened?
What happened there?
Right? Because that passion, that certainty you have does translate to the clients, as you said, and that builds confidence in you, and they in turn have more faith in you because they don't know if it's gonna work. They don't
Yeah,
know what they paid for if they're going to get what they paid for. I buy a leather couch. I don't know if it's gonna last 10 years like they said it's gonna last, right?
exactly.
But I have
They said it's
faith,
it's easy to clean leather. I don't know how true that is.
right?
But I have faith.
You're right. I have faith because of the faith they have in their product, the passion they show about their product, how they market their product, how they talk about their product. Which again, faith in marketing, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. You can only There's only up from here.
Amen, brother.
Awesome. And then the last question here, which is it kind of sums up everything we've been talking about. Advice. What advice would you give other entrepreneurs who to lead biblically, or who might struggle right now? They're struggling right now. Do I make that decision to start including my biblical beliefs into my leading, whether it be my business, my family, leadership style, just in my leadership in general? Do I include those biblical principles and wear them on my sleeve, to, for lack of a better term, and integrate that into my business practices? What advice would you be giving those entrepreneurs struggling with that decision?
Um, Wear it on your sleeve. Don't be ashamed, because the more authentic you are, the more honest you are, the more your business will grow. You know. What about you? What advice would you give to our vast audience?
Absolutely. I would say, like you just said, word on your sleeve. To sink to give an illustration, to drive the point home in the Bible, it refers to, there's a part in it where it says, God, don't worry about your food. Jesus is saying, don't worry about your food, the clothes you may wear, whatever. And then he says, look at the ravens, look at the flowers of the field. And my interesting and most loved part about that, he said, doesn't look at how God clothes the flowers of the field, saying that their colors or their clothes. And he said, not even Solomon dressed in these fine clothing as these flowers, right?
Hmm.
So that tells me, to God, clothing is not the material we wear. Even though we animals are naked, to God, in God's eyes, everything has clothes, right? So what is outside of the clothes that we wear? What could be the human clothes? And I would say that is character, right?
Mm.
Clothe
Yeah, well
yourself
said.
in your character, right? Which is, leading with those principles, wearing them as your clothes. People can see it the moment you walk up. People can see it. Oh, you're talking about so and so, the what's the good word? The lively person. You're talking about Jerry, the one that has all that energy, right? They can't even remember your name, and they're like, "Oh, do you know Jerry? Well, who's Jerry? Oh, the guy that XYZ." Right? That's your character. Right.
Hmm.
Definitely wear those principles, those internal principles you have in your head, wear them and refine them, right? Clothes need sometimes stitchings. Clothes need
Hmm.
to be, shrinked or made larger. So your character refines as you go. And the only way you will know whether you need to refine it is by wearing it on your sleeve and seeing the reaction that you're getting from people.
Yeah, amen. And it's super cool to be religious. It's the coolest thing. So
Absolutely.
it's instant community. It's a beautiful thing. It's uh, it's a pillar of Western civilization. It, it's one of the most beautiful things that has come out of humanity.
Yeah,
Uh,
and,
you
and
know,
and we've worked, us Christ followers have worked too hard to get here. You understand? People
exactly,
were dying,
exactly.
people
We
were being crucified and murdered and things like that. And just
Exactly. We've saved, for example, like the first crusade, like in like it's a religion of beauty. If you look at the chapels, if you look at the scriptures, it's a beautiful thing.
yeah,
It's a beautiful thing to be a part of, and it's a great pillar of history and humanity. And being closer to God is one of the most beautiful things you can do for yourself or your family. And you I like grandmas were right. Mass is awesome. Big families are awesome. Yeah, Christ
yes,
is awesome.
yes,
So I think it's a
absolutely.
beautiful thing, and
Grandma's
it's only going
always
to help your
right.
business if you, like you said, you wear it, you wear it as like clothing, your character, outward facing. It's only going to help you in business.
Yes, absolutely. And in those opportunities that you feel like is a loss, the Bible says, remember, all things are working together for your good.
Yeah,
So
there's a plan, and you just got to row row and have faith that God will steer the ship. You just have to
Absolutely.
row.
And we didn't make this episode to convert you. This was more so for the people that, already believe in Christ and are struggling with the decision whether they incorporate it in their business or not. But if you have been converted and you want to give your life to Jesus, definitely I would say go ahead and do so. All you have to do, the Bible says, is believe in your heart. We're not going to stop. We will encourage you to do so. Believe in your heart, utter the words, and He'll come into your life. You don't need any special ceremony, right? You can
Mhm.
do it just where you are by an utterance of the word. So I hope this blessed you guys. Jerry, it has been an absolute, absolute pleasure as always. We're going to do this again, right? So hopefully this blessed and touched a lot and changed the lives and bring transformation to you guys there. And any topic that y'all want us to talk about, you can definitely drop a comment.
Yep, drop a comment. We'll talk about anything.
Awesome.
Literally.
Awesome. All right. Till next time, guys. Peace.